Come on a journey with a cinephile.
Wake up, sucker. We're thieves and we're bad guys. That's exactly what we are.
We was getting too big for our britches.
What an excellent day for an exorcism.
What have you done to its eyes?
I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Pretty well, little brother. Pretty well.
Hello and welcome, listeners, to Journey with a Cinephile, a horror movie podcast, where we take a deep dive into the world of horror cinema, from the eerie classics to the latest spine-chilling releases. Join me as I explore the history, themes, and artistry of horror one film at a time. Whether you're a seasoned horror fan or just stepping into the shadows, this journey is for you. So dim the lights, embrace the fear, and let's talk horror. And let's do that in episode 290. I am your tour guide of David Garrett Jr., recording out of Columbus, Ohio, and this is going to be my Voyage to the Fives, episode number 9. So 2 featured reviews here. It's actually kind of makes for an interesting double feature. Let me get to that in just a second, but the first one is going to be One Frightened Night. This is from 1935, and I'm pairing this up with Sinners, so I finally got the chance to go check that one out. What we got here is we're looking at people being kind of the monsters here in a little bit different ways that I thought was kind of interesting, made for a good double feature there. Then I also have mini reviews here of Cat's Eye. This is my 1985 Voyage to the Fives rewatch. Then I got to watch a screener of A Hard Place, and then I gave a look to an Asian anthology film of 3. This is one from 2002. Then I also gave a rewatch to Hard Eyes, but then I also have 2 documentaries here for you. First one's Monster Madness, the counterculture to Blockbusters. Finally finished out that Monster Madness series there. And then I also gave one to a cryptid documentary of the Bray Road Beast. So I don't think there's anything else I need to do here for this intro outside of saying thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy coming on this journey with me.
Pod Nation TV has you beamed up with Out of This World award-winning podcast, found exclusively on Pod Nation TV. Download Pod Nation TV for Roku and Fire TV. Pod Nation TV, Out of This World.
And I have a great offer here that I wanted to go ahead and extend to all you listeners out there for oldglory.com. This is a place where you can get over 300,000 items for music, sports, entertainment, and pop culture fans, featuring officially licensed merch from iconic bands and top sports teams. Discover your perfect fan gear and save with my exclusive discount. And that is going to be Cinephile 1. But here you get a 15% discount off of any product, and this is exclusive for something that I'm doing and for what has been offered to me. And I mean, this has things like artists here, Bob Marley, the Beatles, Grateful Dead, the Rolling Stones, Metallica, and more. We also have sports fans have stuff here for your favorite teams with official gear from the NBA, NFL, NHL, MLB, and NCAA, showcasing your team pride in style. And they even have some stuff here that celebrate, entertainment, TV shows, movies, lifestyle brands, and it means some quirky gifts to fan favorite apparel. There's something for everybody. With free standard shipping and same day order processing, Old Glory delivers fast and reliable service with every purchase. Whether shopping for yourself or looking for a perfect gift, Old Glory is your one-stop shop for iconic, high-quality merch that reflects your love for music and sports, as well as pop culture. And I mean, kind of just running through some of this stuff. This is a family-owned superstore since 1969. They're known for their quality and customer service. You can get exclusive selection of graphic tees, hoodies, hats, and accessories. Represent your favorite sports team with official fan gear. Discover quirky gifts, like I was saying, and fun pop culture apparel. Perfect place to shop for, this type of stuff. And there's a vast selection of entertainment-themed products, including movies and TV shows if you're not necessarily into some of the other things. And enjoy reliable and fast service with Old Glory's commitment to customer satisfaction, the ultimate source for high-quality, licensed fan merchandise for all ages. Like I said, my promo code is going to be Cinephile1, all one word. So if you're kind of interested, go ahead and check out their website here in my show notes, as I'll have I actually have more details down there for you as well. And for my first mini review here is going to be Cat's Eye. This is from 1985. It was directed by Lewis Teague, and it was written by Stephen King. So this is starring Drew Barrymore, James Woods, and Alan King. This is a dark comedy, monster, drama, horror thriller film that is from, I believe this is just from the United States. Let me double check that there. Oh, this is the one that's a co-production with the Netherlands. This is currently sitting on a 6.3 on IMDb and a 3.2 on Letterboxd, with our synopsis being: a stray cat is linking elements of three tales of suspense and horror. So this is an anthology that I knew was based around different stories by King. So my history is that I used to catch parts of this on the movie channels. It wasn't until picking up the DVD to watch this and then working through the Horror Show Guide Encyclopedia that I started doing this with a more critical eye. So this is a Voyage to the Fives rewatch as well. So the three stories that we're having here, though, the first one is, I believe the first two are actually from Night Shift, and the first one is Quitters Inc. This one stars James Wood as Dick Morrison, who is trying to quit smoking, and the company he comes to is got some very kind of nefarious ways in doing that. The next one is The Ledge, which this has Johnny Norris, portrayed by Robert Hayes, as he is seeing a married man's wife. They try to run away together, but her husband, Cressner, portrayed by Kenneth McMillan, has a different idea here, as they play a game of survival. And the final story is actually one I believe just made up for this, called General. This one features a young Drew Barrymore as Amanda, where there is a stray cat that she names General that comes to her house, and there could be a creature that is attacking her at night, but her mother believes that it is the cat. So what I'll go ahead and say is that I've read Night Shift when I was in high school, and I do want to go ahead and give that one a reread when I get the chance to. So Quitters Inc. and The Ledge were two stories that did get under my skin back then. Now, since it was the same production team, I'm just going to go ahead and treat this all as one thing here. So I'll first say is that Quitters Inc., I think it's kind of an interesting. I know smoking is one of the hardest addictions to quit. By putting your family on the line, it makes you consider what you do in that situation. I thought the acting here was good. Woods is the star, and he does a great job. His paranoia is so real, and you feel horrible when he gives into his addiction. There's a great singer at the end that I didn't remember, and I thought that was a good way to end that one out, as it kind of feels like EC Comics there. Then over to The Ledge. I remember this story getting my anxiety going back in the day. I'm terrified of heights, so seeing Hayes on this ledge made me nervous. I know it's not even real, but it makes it so I give credit for it doing that, and it makes matters worse here is that McMillan messing around with him as he's trying to get across. The interesting thing, though, is that Hayes is in the wrong. He has seen a married woman, but I don't feel as bad when you see how horrible McMillan is. Now, the acting is one that's a little bit mediocre, though, since it does come in a little bit too comedic, and it might also not help out here that when I see Hayes, I think of Stryker from Airplane. So, but I mean, it doesn't ruin it either. I just think ramping up that vertigo feeling of being trapped on this ledge would help for sure. Then finally over to General. I used to think that this one was the weakest of the segments. This concept of this troll coming out of the wall is terrifying. There's a great touch here where the father, who's Hugh, played by James Naughton, mocks his mother-in-law with the folklore that she believes in. How they brought the creature to life was good. It's an interesting blend here of forced perspective and effects by Carlo Rambaldi, the legend. This time I thought that it held up better. I did like that Frank Welker did the voice. Both are legends in their departments. A stray cat coming to Amanda's aid brings heart. Barrymore was fine in her role. She's so adorable. I even like her parents, who are Candy Clark and Naughton. I've come around to this one the more times I see this anthology. Now, something I should say here is that I prefer them to have a wraparound. What I didn't even realize is that there was supposed to be more to the kind of opening, but we do end up having this where each of this cat general is in all of the stories. Barrymore is also kind of doing this, where in the first one she's Dick's daughter who's away at a boarding school, and then she's an actor on TV in The Ledge. Other than that, I thought the cinematography and framing were good across the board. Credit there to the tension used for Quitters Inc. of this fear of always being watched. They subtly confirm it as well. The other effects were solid. Going practical makes me smile. The soundtrack also fits what was needed. So in conclusion, this is an above-average anthology that has 3 stories from the master of horror and King. Quitters Inc. is still my favorite, but I've come around to General. They work well in the confines as being connected by the stray cat and Barrymore. She's great and adorable in this final segment. The rest of the cast were solid around here, being led by Woods, Clark, and Naughton. No one is bad. This was made well with the cinematography, framing, and sound design. If anything, I wish they would have amped up the vertigo feeling for The Ledge. I think this vaults this Indu be in a higher category for me if they did. How it stands though, this one flies by, which I always appreciate. So my rating here for Cat's Eye is going to be a 7 out of 10 this time around. Then up next here is going to be a screener I got to check out of A Hard Place. This is from 2025. It was directed by Jay Horton, who also helped write this with Michael J. Epstein. This stars Rachel Amanda Bryant, Kevin Caliber, and Felissa Rose, while also featuring Lynn Lowry, somebody else I wanted to make sure I included there. But this is a monster action horror thriller film that is from the United States. It is currently sitting on a 7.2 on IMDb and not enough ratings on Letterboxd, but about a 3-star movie over there. With our synopsis being, a group of criminals on the run find themselves caught in the middle of an ancient feud between the monsters that roam the day and the ones that rule the night. So I got the chance to see this one via screener thanks to Justin Cook. When I saw that this was a 2025 horror release, I did like to help fill out my end of the year list with independents like this to see if I can find any gems. So I skimmed the press release just knowing that it was in genre, which was enough. Now, something that I also figured out pretty early on was that this featured Rose, Lowry, and even Ba Ling ahead of seeing it. So where I'm going to end up starting is that there's some good and bad things here. Something interesting that I read some reviews on Letterboxd that this was crowdfunded. I can confirm that by watching the credits because there's a ton of people that contributed. What is interesting though is that might explain a major issue I have with the pacing. This is disjointed. It jumps right in at breakneck speed, and I was confused with a couple things that were happening, and then there's some stuff that was left unexplained that were issues for me. Now that I have that set up though, let me delve what I liked. The first thing would be the concept. When we have a group of criminals get to this area, we see that there are these vines and trees that are moving in ways that are not normal. We then get these cool human-plant hybrid creatures. They kill someone and they clean them pretty much to the bone, almost like acid did it, which is a cool visual and effect. Then things go on. We realize that the group hosting our survivors are hiding a secret. This kind of feels like the movie Skin Deep, where we have two groups of villains where our characters need to figure out who is better option to side with in surviving. Developing a story like this is something that helps build tension. And sticking with positives, I'll bring in the filmmaking. I love the practical approach to the look of both sets of creatures. The plant ones were cooler, but that's not to say that we don't get some better stuff later on though either. There were issues that I had. I go back to the writing, but I digress there. Now, there is some CGI used to help enhance, so I'll let that slide. We would get a combination here of practical and CGI gore. The former looks better. Now, computers were used for things like for gunshot fire, it looked like, and blood spray. I don't love that. I'll say the cinematography and framing do some good things there to hide the seams. They try to do some disorienting things early on that didn't necessarily work for me. The sound design and music were fine without necessarily standing out there either. Then let's bring things back to the issues I had with the writing. I wanted to know more about both sets of creatures. We do get a little bit of backstory. I just wanted a bit more there. Instead, we kept going back to this movie that is being shown at the drive-in and then again later on television when our isolated group that takes in our main characters. I get that they were able to get Ling as well as Sadie Katz and Glenn Plummer. My problem there is it wasn't as interesting to watch though after I figured out from that opening scene. Slowing this down to develop the characters and lore of these creatures as well as their history of strife would help deepen the story. Instead, we just kind of get this like Hatfield and McCoy's or like Romeo and Juliet type thing. All that's left them to be discussing the acting performances. I would go ahead here and say that Bryant, Ashley Undercuffler, Caliber, and Jennifer Michelle Stone II. I thought they were all kind of good as this main group that we follow. Bryant and Undercuffler are the true stars. There's a little bit of forbidden love there as well. Caliber and Stone are caricatures that fit a movie like this. We also have Lowry and Rose. They're good in their secondary roles. They try to help build more story there. And we also have Ling, Plummer, and Katz work in their cameo. The rest of them are kind of character types that you'll see in movies like this. They're fine as cannon fodder. And then the biggest issue here, though, is that we have so many characters that it was hard to keep track of. So in conclusion, this is a movie that I thought would have been better if, outside of the issues that I have, we have a good concept. I love having these two groups that are at war over forbidden love. There's also this idea between the character of Fish, portrayed by Bryant, and Naja, portrayed by Undercuffler. Also, the use of the idea of like a group of criminals seeking refuge and then trying to survive against these two other factions work. The problem is that there's not some of it's underdeveloped. We continue to cut away to this monster movie that doesn't necessarily fit as well as they wanted. The acting from our leads worked for what was needed there. There are just too many characters. Filmmaking is also hit or miss. The practical effects for gore and monsters were good. The CGI doesn't hold up as well. The rest were fine for what was needed. There is more good, but this is still a mediocre film overall. So my rating here for A Hard Place is going to be a 5.5 out of 10. And I'll also go ahead and say that this should be hitting VOD soon. I believe here right around the corner. Then up next year, we have another anthology of 3. It goes by the original title of Samgang. This is from 2002. The directors here are Peter Ho-sun Chan, Kim Ji-woon, and Nanzi Nimbatur. And then we also have here for writers is Ji-woon, Nate Sigahamat, Huet Yan Hui and Matt Cho. Then this stars Lian Lei, Kim Ha-si, and Jeong Bo-seok. Now, this is a horror mystery film that is from a co-production of Hong Kong, South Korea, and Thailand. Currently sitting on a 6.1 on IMDb and a 3.1 on Letterboxd with a synopsis. An anthology consisting of 3 horror shorts from different Asian directors and countries. So this is one that I learned about when I was looking into 3 Extremes after watching that film. Now, anthologies are films that I enjoy, but they don't always land as well as they could rating-wise. Now, what is interesting here is this is considered a sequel to that other film, even though this one actually came out a couple years before that one. But 3 Extremes taking off like it did, that one is got more notoriety, so that's why this one almost became like a sequel. I couldn't find the streaming, so I ended up picking up a cheap DVD to check this one out. And so I'll go ahead and say this, of course, has 3. Our first one was done by Ji Woon, and it's called Memories, and this is one from South Korea. The second one is The Wheel, done by Nimi Buter from Thailand, and then we have Going Home, who is done by Chan, and that one's from Hong Kong. So what I'll go ahead and say is that since all of these are done individually, let's go ahead and I'll break down each one. And my first one here, my favorite aspects fall in filmmaking. I love the dreamlike atmosphere that we got from Memories. The husband is haunted and trying to find out what happened to his wife. Now, the husband is portrayed by Bo-seok, and then his wife by Hye-soo. Now, we get some interesting scenes here where he drives past a car accident and thinks it's her, and I'll credit the cinematography and framing to help get this dreamlike atmosphere. This leads me to say that the acting by our 2 leads here was good. They carry this one for sure. There's also a reveal that I guessed fairly early on, so my interest did wane a little bit because of it, so that was kind of a bummer for me. This one's still solid to kick off this film. So the second story is going to be The Wheel. And this one, I thought some good things here with the folklore. I love this idea that these specific puppets hold spirits and could be cursed over there. Now, when you have these 2 rival masters, one is Tong and the other one is Tao, and they are being portrayed by Pongset Vinsiri is Tong and Komgrik Yoti Yong is Tao. Now, we also have this character of Gan, who is portrayed by Suwinit Panjimawat, and he tries to warn Tong and then about how these are cursed, and then Tong actually still goes after these because they are left in the river, and then he falls into the water. The acting here was solid across the board. No one stood out, but no one was bad. They did just kind of feel a little bit generic for me, the story at least did. There was a reveal that I don't care for in movies that we got in this one, just undoes everything that was building for me. This had potential to end up falling short. Then the last one here of Coming Home is probably my favorite. This one kicks off with something I didn't even bring up yet, is that there's this photographer who is portrayed by Jan Soo Kim Fun, who scolds the character of Yu for blinking while he's going to take his picture, and Yu is portrayed by Lai. Now, the little studio comes back into play later. What we get here, though, is we're following 2 families that are dealing with grief in different ways, and it's weighing over them. We have the character of Chuang, portrayed by Ting Feng Lee, and he's moving in with his son here to this new apartment complex, and he's distrustful of his new neighbor of Yu, and when the son goes missing, even more. Then it comes back that Chuang is convinced that Yu had something to do with it, so like I was saying, and he convinces him to let him go look for his son, but Yu fears that he won't be able to complete what he needs to for his wife, who is Hire, portrayed by Eugenie Yuan, to wake up. There's a great reveal at the end of the short that was a gut punch in the best way possible. This was well made from the cinematography to the framing. There's some subtle supernatural aspects as well that I appreciate. This is one of my favorites, and I think the acting here definitely helps carry everything along with it. So in conclusion, this doesn't hit as well as 3 Extremes. It makes sense why this one is a little bit more difficult to find. That's not to say this isn't good. None of the shorts are bad. My least favorite is our middle segment, and even that one does good things. This one is over average. The last one I think is borderline great. Now, we get 3 different type of stories here, all with varying degrees of supernatural aspects. That part is woven in very well. There's good acting. This is well made enough. And I mean, my biggest issues here is that it's coming from decisions and choices made for the narratives. If you like anthologies, especially from Asia, I would recommend giving this one a watch. So my rating here for 3 is going to be a 7 out of 10. Then I'm going to go brief with my next one here. It's going to be Hard Eyes. This is from 2025. This is directed by Josh Rubin, and it was written amongst Philip Murphy, Christopher Landon, and Michael Kennedy. Now, this stars Mesa Gooding, Olivia Holt, and Gigi Zambandando. This is a dark comedy, slasher, splatter, whodunit, comedy, horror mystery film that is from a co-production of the United States and New Zealand. Currently sitting on a 6.1 on IMDb and a 2.8 on Letterboxd, or a synopsis being, for the past several years, a hard-eyes killer has wreaked havoc on Valentine's Day by stalking and murdering romantic couples. This Valentine's Day, no couple is safe. So if you'd like to hear a more in-depth review, it's going to be episode 276, which was Women Appreciation number 12. This one I had it paired up with Slumber Party Massacre 2, so this would have been like a woman appreciation thing there. We don't have like director here, but we do have a main character, and both these are slasher films, so it kind of made for a double feature like that. But then what I'll go ahead and say here this time around is that, picture this: Valentine's Day, love is in the air, and a mass maniac known as the hard-eyes killer is crashing the party. This isn't your typical slasher flick. Imagine a rom-com with a healthy dose of horror. Now, directed by Ruben and penned by a team including Landon, it's a wild ride starring Olivia Holt and Mason Gooding. The film nails the chemistry between the two leads, making you genuinely care if they survive the night. It leans into the rom-com elements a bit, which honestly is where it shines more. The slasher stuff is there, and it's surprisingly brutal with a mix of practical and CGI effects, mostly the latter stuff there to kind of just enhance. So the killer's lore is tied to St. Valentine, and the weapon of choice here is a wicked-looking machete, kind of simulating a sword. Now, cinematography and framing are solid, and the soundtrack hits those nostalgic high school notes for me. My real gripe: the killer's reveal felt a bit underwhelming, but hey, it's a minor quibble in an otherwise fun and well-made film. And I didn't even include here that he also has a little crossbow that shoots little arrows out like Cupid. So, Hard Eyes for me, solid 7 out of 10 after the second watch. Definitely kind of made that score solidify. And it's definitely finding a spot at the back end of my top 25 list. So if you're looking for a little bit of a genre-bending experience, give this one a shot. And it kind of falls in line with the slasher films here where you're doing it, based around holidays. So like I said, 7 out of 10 for Hard Eyes. Then to end out this Monster Madness series, the fourth one here of the Counterculture to Blockbusters. This is from 2015. This is a documentary that was directed by Jeff Herberger. This was written by A. Susan Savella. This features people like Linda Harrison, William Marshall, and Robert Corey. I believe all of those are going to be archived. This is from the United States. It is currently sitting on a 7.5 on IMDb. Not enough ratings on Letterboxd, but I would say about a 4, between a 3 and a 4-star movie over there, with a synopsis being: this has distinguished actors, directors, writers examining the history of horror, fantasy, and science fiction films from the groundbreaking. This one actually does it through 1980s and beyond, and it starts off a little bit in the 1970s with that counterculture stuff. So this one is available on Tubi. I rather enjoyed the first 3 parts, so I decided to, watch this late in a work day for this final installment to see what it had. So this one, like I say, is discussed in the 1970s, where we saw the rise of the exploitation cinema. There were also movies that were coming out in foreign countries that were doing well in the U.S. markets. I know we had a good section here paying homage to Roger Corman for his Edgar Allan Poe adaptations like The Mask of the Red Death. This saw him working with the likes of Boris Karloff, Jack Nicholson, and Vincent Price. This also explores films like Blackula, which starred Marshall, or Count York, a Vampire with Quarry. And we also get to see some stuff here where Corman teamed up with Price for like The Abominable Dr. Phibes. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, Corman did not, but we have a bunch of people here that are kind of working together in this era. Now, the blockbuster section will also be in the 1970s and then blend into the 80s. Jaws was a major title to do this. I believe that was 75 or something along those lines. But there are also like Star Wars, Star Trek the Motion Picture, and Planet of the Apes that get covered here. There were lower budget ones that were still scary with Stephen King adaptations that started with the 70s with Carrie. So a lot of good information here. I know I've seen most of the titles that were brought up, and hearing interviews from like Quarry, Marshall, and D. Wallace add something to it. This does feel like a step up from just being a clip show and trailers. Got a good touch though, just to give you a bit more background as well as visuals. Still worth a watch for this run if you're interested in docs that scratch just a little bit under the surface more. So my rating here for Monster Madness, a Counterculture to Blockbusters, is going to be a 7.5 out of 10. Then my last mini review here is going to be The Bray Road Beast. This is from 2018, directed by Seth Breedlove, who co-wrote this with Mark Matsky. Now this features Lyle Blackburn, Linda S. Godfrey, and Jay Bakochin. Now this is a documentary from the United States, currently sitting on a 5.5 on IMDb and a 3.0 on Letterboxd, or a synopsis being: in the early 1990s, a rural Wisconsin community called Elkhorn becomes the center of a series of real-life werewolf sightings. So this one here, another documentary from Breedlove that I decided to check out. I was, while I was at work, I didn't know a whole lot about this cryptid, but from the poster, it seemed like it was falling in line with werewolf lore. I decided to put this on, like I was saying, late in the day, treat it like a podcast, looking down if there's something particularly interesting. So delving more into this one, these events are happening in Wisconsin. Bray Road has an interesting history. It seems like a family, the Brays, slowly moved into the area. Each member bought farms that neighbored pretty much the next one. And then the road then was named after it as it kind of ran, I believe, through them or like right next to all these farms. So members of the family are still in this area. I believe they even get interviewed here. Yeah, there's Larry and Bob Bray are two local people that are featured in this as people who have had encounters and stuff. Now, something I find interesting is that we also have this reporter of Godfrey who works in the area. She's an expert compiling data and even wrote a book about it. There's some good things here that she almost feels like our central character to help explain things that we get introduced further. Then this one is also broken up into different chapters. What I love about this one is that we get additional research done here, delving into the history of like werewolf folklore, and we also get to see maps, old drawings, and even get drone shots of the area that helps set the stage more and frame what we hear. What is something else that I felt like needed to get a little bit more credit to that. I'll also say that this is well made. Breedlove and his team are presenting interesting information. He has different things to break it up, so you're not just seeing somebody being interviewed. The CG effects to bring the creatures to life have charm. This is paced well and does not say it's welcome. I even like this eerie feel that Godfrey kind of points out at different things. There are similar sightings in different places that match up to what she was saying here, because she's even talking about like the Dogman and stuff from Michigan. That could be people hearing things and being influenced, but I can't discredit anything as being said, though, and I don't have proof to the contrary. So this one was a fast watch. If you're interested in documentaries like this, about cryptids and whatnot, I would highly recommend giving this one a go. So my rating here for The Beast of Bray Road is going to be a 6.5 out of 10. That's all I'm going to have here then for mini reviews. Let me go ahead and get you over to the trailer of my first featured review.
Just the same, I don't understand how you happen to come here on this particular night.
That's what he said, but I didn't know what he meant. Are you sorry, too?
What are you talking about?
Grandfather. You know, he's a strange sort, isn't he? I really think he'd be a swell person if you could get to know him.
Well, don't I rate any attention? You know, I'm not such a bad sort either when you get to know me.
He said not to trust you too far.
Now listen, Doris.
Ah, that's far enough.
You seem to be more afraid of me than anything else in this house.
I'm not afraid.
I want to take you out of here.
But I promised him I'd stay. Besides, the show isn't over yet.
That's just what I mean. You're in danger here, Doris. I'd never forgive myself if anything happened to you.
Really? Well, there's nothing small time about the way you work.
Listen, if you think this is an act I'm putting
Remember your weakness. You'll get over it in the morning.
All right. If that's the way you feel about it, I won't bore you any longer.
Tom!
You're not afraid, are you?
Well, I guess I've played tougher houses than this.
Just the same, I'll be back.
for my first featured review here is going to be One Frightened Night from 1935. This is directed by Christy Caban. This is written by Wellen Topman, and I believe actually Stuart Palmer did the original source material. This is starring Charlie Grapewin, Mary Carlisle, and Arthur Hole, while also featuring the likes here to round out this: Wallace Ford, Lucien Littlefield, Regis Toomey, Hedda Hopper, Clarence Wilson, Evelyn Knapp, Rafaela Agno, Fred Kelsey, Adrian Morris, and Roger Pryor. This is a comedy horror mystery film that is from the United States. It is currently sitting on a 6.0 on IMDb, and not enough ratings on Letterboxd, but between like a 2.5 to a 3-star movie over there. With their synopsis being: an eccentric millionaire, unable to locate his only granddaughter, decides to divide his estate amongst a group of people less close to him. Complications and murder arise when 2 different women turn up, claiming to be his granddaughter. So this is one that I found when searching for horror for 1935. This one is on YouTube. I'll be honest, outside of the title, lining up the years, the director, and who starred in it, I came to this one blind. The title was one that I thought was kind of good. It sets the stage well enough, so this is my Voyage to the Fives watch for the week from 1935, as I was saying. So then let's do some feature notes here and start with our director here of Caban. He has helmed 130 features. I've seen 2 now. The first 2 were covered on this podcast already with The Mummy's Hand from 1940, and has 3 in genre, and that I've seen now. I've seen 2 of his 3 in the genre is what I mean there, and I'm just missing Scared to Death from 1946. Then to our writer, Topman, has 39 credits, first that I've seen, only 1 in genre. Then the original writer of the story is Palmer. He has 9 motion pictures, did 1 other one in genre with The Smiling Ghost, which I've seen, his only 2 in horror as well. Then let's move to our cast, and I'll start with our star here of Grapewin. I've seen 4 of his 102 movies. Not horror, I've seen The Wizard of Oz, Grapes of Wrath, and Judge Priest. He has 2 in genre with this, and the other one that I've not seen yet, of Return of the Terror. So then let's move over to Littlefield. He has been in 207 films. I've seen 4. He did 7 in genre, and everything that I've seen has fall into this one, where I've seen The Cat and the Canary from 1927, One Body Too Many, this, and Strangers of the Evening. He also has been in Scared Stiff, which I have not seen, The Ghostbreaker, or The Helldiggers, and I do believe these last 2 ones are lost, so I might not ever get the chance to see it, but I need to double check that. The next is Carlisle. She did 64 works. I've seen her in 2, both in genre. They're only of the 2 that she did that in the genre as well, with Dead Men Walk in this. So I'm also going to give credit here to Ford, because I've seen 8 of his 121 features for 6%. I've now seen all 6 of his horror works with Freaks, The Mummy's Hand, Tomb, Ape Man, Night of Terror, and now this film here. So then, let's jump into what we get for this movie. And we start with seeing a large manor and kind of getting a lay of the land a little bit here. And this belongs to Jasper White, portrayed by Grapewin. Now, he is an eccentric millionaire from the synopsis. His health is fading, and there's this new estate tax that's going to go into effect at midnight. He has decided to give everybody their inheritance now to avoid that. Now, his doctor is Denham, portrayed by Littlefield. Now, he's in attendance along with Tom Dean, portrayed by Toomey, Arthur Proctor, portrayed by Holm, and his wife Laura, portrayed by Hopper. Now, they were called there to learn about what Jasper is leaving them, and then waiting on everybody is the housekeeper here of Elvira, portrayed by Atenanio. Now, everybody is getting left $1 million of Jasper's money. He makes a comment, though, that if his granddaughter, who he's been searching for, was here, she'd be left everything. It seems like he had a falling out with his daughter, so the man she married upset Jasper, so she left. Now, he's been kept from Doris as a result of this, which is kind of weird that he's so close to her but hasn't seen her for a while, but I digress. So the events change as Mr. Felix, portrayed by Wilson, shows up with Doris, portrayed by Knapp. Now, this upsets the family. Elvira makes a comment that she looks nothing like her mother, which explained by saying that she was taken after her dad, which is why she looks how she does, Doris being that long-lost granddaughter. That is until another woman shows up, also claiming to be Doris. This one works with Joe Louvel, who is portrayed by Ford, who is a magician, and her being his assistant. I should actually say here, this other one is being portrayed by Carlisle. Then schemes go into place. The first Doris is then murdered, and it looks like poison. This leads to Sheriff Jenks, portrayed by Kelsey, and Deputy Abner, portrayed by Morris, coming to get to the bottom of what is happening. Everyone turns on each other as they try to prevent the suspicion of, being who caused this crime and everything to be turned onto them. The true killer is still hiding in plain sight, waiting for the perfect moment to strike again before the night is over in an attempt to get as much of the inheritance as possible. Even though I'm not fully sure if that's how it works or not, but I would assume it kind of is, so it makes me wonder if that's something that gets used later, but I'll digress and come back to that later probably. So that's where I leave my recap introduction of the characters. Where I want to start is that on paper, this should be a film that works for me. I love the setting that we're confined to this house for one night. It starts storming outside. The power gets knocked out due to lightning striking a power pole. Then there's a murder. It becomes a mystery of who committed it. Everybody has a motive, so we have a number of red herrings. The characters are all shades of gray as well. We don't know who is fully capable of murder, but for $1 million, there are just things that people will do. The biggest issue is that I've seen other films from this era that do this better, so I'm not shocked that this one is a lesser scene because of it. So now that's set up, let's delve more into what we're getting here. I bring up again that we have a good setting. We meet our group that is already there. The power gets knocked out. That is during dinner. We then learn about Jasper. His health is starting to fade, and he doesn't want the government taxing his money. So he's, giving it to these people early, which definitely is relevant now, especially with some of the things that are happening in the government. But I like that he makes this comment that if Doris is found, she'd get everything. Then she does, raising the stakes for murder. There is more that is showing up here with having two people claiming to be her. Our killer or killers need to eliminate her to get their share. It is a misstep to not think deeper here that the more that are killed, the more that would be left to the sole survivor. Now, Jasper is still alive, though, so could easily just write these people out of the will or, kind of have agreement like that. But I do think that's something that should have been considered. I don't know if it was or not. We don't ever get it explicitly stated. What helps make this work is the setting that we're getting elements of the old dark house. There is a death of the one Doris. The police then show up to solve the crime, need to make more sense of it. We learn there's a tunnel that gives access to other rooms. I'm a sucker for this when it's used in movies. This one falls short because it doesn't get utilized as much. I think I'll then shift over to acting performances. This is hit or miss for me. I do also wonder if it could be the writing that is causing it. Grapeland is great as our ornery patriarch. He falls in line with being, rich, so he's rude to his family. This is for good reason, as they truly only want to be around him for his money. Littlefield, Toomey, Holm, Wilson, Ataniano, and Hopper are all good as the red herrings. They have a variety of reasons to be the killer. Greed at the forefront, but there are little things which add to it as well. It's kind of deep in each of their little storylines. I like Carlisle and Knapp to complicate the events. Ford is fun as a comic relief. I also credit Kelsey and Morris as the investigators. What is good here is that they're not bumbling. They're just lacking the evidence, and they're determined to find it. So what's left then before I do a little bit of trivia is going to be filmmaking. This one isn't benefited by being black and white. It was just difficult to pick out certain characters. The quality of the print was part of it. The men also look similar, and they're all wearing like tuxedos. Writing, again, factors into not making these characters more distinct. I still like the cinematography and framing to bring the setting to life. This is early into cinema history, so it was limited what it could do. This is just how it was made. It just doesn't necessarily stand out. No big issues there, though, I will say that. So then the earliest documented telecast for this was in Washington, D.C. on January 13th, 1948. The music in the opening credits is the same music used in the opening credits of the 1933 horror mystery film The Vampire Bat. I actually feel like we have very similar casts or very similar production teams, so it could be part of it or even the company, whatever. The model shots of the house during the storm are identical to the ones in the movies The Ghost Walks from 1934 and Twin Husbands from 1933. Probably for good reason. They probably reused it, but I will digress on that as well. So in conclusion, this film feels generic, unfortunately. It's doing the things that others from this era were already doing, so it doesn't necessarily stand out. There's a good setting with this old dark house. I think they needed to utilize that more. There's still interesting concepts. Jasper wants to give the inheritance to his friends and family unless his granddaughter is found. Two women show up claiming to be her, which results in murder. The acting is fine across the board. It was hard to separate who certain characters were. It still made it interesting enough. Not one that I can recommend unless you're trying to do a little bit deeper dive into this year or this era of cinema. So my rating then for One Fright Night is going to be a 5 out of 10. So I'm not going to do a spoiler section. Not necessarily think I need to do anything with that's, going deeper or anything like that. So let me go ahead and get you over to the trailer of my second featured review.
We've been gone a long time. We back now.
You twins?
Nah, we cousins.
There are legends of people with the gift of making music so true. It can conjure spirits from the past and the future. This gift can bring fame and fortune.
Will somebody take me in your eyes?
But it also can pierce the veil between life and death.
Listen here. This ain't no house party.
Shit.
Y'all ready to drink? Y'all ready to sweat till y'all stink?
You want some?
You keep dancing with the devil.
Careful, boy. You gonna bite off more than you can chew.
Love you. One day he's gonna follow you home.
We got us a problem now.
What the hell going on?
Oh, we heard tale of a party.
This world already left you for dead. I can save you from your fate.
You don't need no saving.
Yes, you do.
And you are?
I am.
Your way out. Don't cry. It's all better now.
Yes, I lied to you. I don't believe in magic. Ghosts, demons. Just power. Somebody please take me.
We gonna kill every last one of you.
Hey, I ain't mean to scare you. Thought y'all done forgot about me in here. Come on, open the door, let me on out of here.
Stay. It's you?
Of course it's me, open the door.
That ain't your brother.
Lied to you.
Yo, smell anything? I think I shot myself.
And for my second featured review is going to be Sinners from 2025, written and directed by Ryan Coogler. This stars Michael B. Jordan, Miles Canton, and Haley Steinfeld, while also featuring the likes here of Saul Williams, Andred Ward Hammond, Jack O'Connell, Tenji L. Jackson, Dave Maldonado, Adian Encalardi, Helena Hugh, Yao, Sam Malone, Jaquan Monroe Henderson, Lee Jun Lee, Delroy Lindo, Jamie Lawson, Percy Bell, and Omar Benson Miller. This is a period drama, supernatural. I'm actually going to leave this one out because it gives a spoiler. Action, drama, horror, thriller film that is from a co-production of the United States, Australia, and Canada. Currently sitting on an 8.1 on IMDb and a 4.2 on Letterboxd, with snaps being trying to leave their troubled lives behind. Twin brothers return to their hometown to start again, only to discover that an even greater evil is waiting to welcome them back. So this is one that I had been wanting to see for a while. Due to the birth of my son, I haven't had time to go to the theater like I used to. The buzz for this made me excited. It also leads to something being spoiled for me. Not enough to ruin it. I did want to say that. And I heard that there was a sequence in particular that needed to be viewed on the big screen. So thankfully things aligned, allowing me to catch this before it left the Gateway Film Center. So this is my 2025 horror film for the week, as you can tell, even though I'm late to the game here and most everybody already has their reviews out. But let's do some featured notes. I'll start with our director here of Coogler. He has 7 motion pictures, and I've seen 5. Not horror, I've seen both Black Panther films, Creed, and Fruitvale Station. First foray he's into the genre. Has 2 assistant directors, which the first one here is, did not write his name down for whatever reason, and it's going to be, let me go ahead and double check here, Amir R. Khan. They've got 12 credits. I've seen 5. Not in genre would have been Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, The Accountant, Blockers, and What Men Want. It has one other one in horror that I have yet to see as of yet. That's Freaky. Now, the other one is Marvin Williams. He worked with Coogler on Black Panther. Has 6 total. I've seen 2. This is the only one he's done in horror. Then our writer here is Coogler. He has 6 that he has also directed, so I'm at 5 out of 6. Only one he's done in genre. Moving to our cast, Jordan has been in 38 films. I've seen 9. I've seen both Black Panther films, Creed and Fruitvale Station. This is the first technical horror film for him. He was in Chronicle, which I kind of put borderline into the genre. This is Canton's feature film debut. Then I'll look at Steinfeld. Now, she has been in 34 films. I've seen 8. Not in horror would be her voice in Spider-Man Into and Across the Spider-Verse. Has a cameo in the Marvels film and was also in Pitch Perfect 2 and True Grit. This is her first film that she's done in horror. And then I'll also give credit here to, let me go ahead and give her full name because I didn't. They do theirs by the order of appearance, but this is Wunmi Moscow. She has been in 40 works. I've seen 6. Not horror is Deadpool and Wolverine, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, Batman vs. Superman, and Loki. Has 3 in genre. I've seen 2. I have seen this in His House. I have not seen The Citadel as of yet. I believe that's how that shook out there. So then, for this one, we start off in the end. And I will jump in here and say I don't love when movies use this trope because it kind of spoils things in my opinion, and it makes me kind of know that certain things aren't going to happen and loses some of the stakes. But what I'll say is that we see a character who's clutching a guitar neck tightly. It then informs us that we're going to jump to the day prior and shows what led us there. Now, Sammy Moore, portrayed by Catton, is finishing up his work as the sun is rising. Now, he's the son of a preacher, Jedediah, portrayed by Williams. He doesn't approve what his son is planning to do on this night, and he wants him to help out with his sermon the next morning. Sammy agrees, but is still going to go off for the day. Now, the reason is his father worries that his cousins are back in town. Smoke and Stack, both played by Jordan. They bought a former mill from Hogwood, portrayed by Maldonado, to turn into a nightclub. The brothers left when they were younger, fought in World War I, and then once they're back in the United States, worked with the gangsters like Al Capone. They decided to get out of that racket to come home. Now, the brothers split up, one taking Sammy, who they call Preacher Boy, to get everything ready. This includes enlisting the aid of Grace, portrayed by Lee, and Bo Chow, portrayed by Yao, to provide food as well as a sign. They go and find Delta Slim, portrayed by Lindo, and Pearline, portrayed by Lawson. They're hired to, play piano and sing. Then there's Cornbread, portrayed by Miller, who is hired from the fields for security. Smoke visits his former lover, Annie, portrayed by Moscow. He asks her to cook as he makes up for abandoning her. Stack also has some complications when a former acquaintance of his, as well as his brother, shows back up. Her name is Mary, portrayed by Steinfeld. Now, she's back in town after catching word that they've returned. She's upset that they missed her mother's funeral, which was actually just recently, like that week. And it sounds like she took the boys in while they're still growing up because there was an issue with their father being abusive. So there's an even darker cloud, though, in the area. Remick, portrayed by O'Connell, is chased by Choctaw Native Americans. He finds aid with Bert, portrayed by Peter Drymanis, and Joan, portrayed by Lola Kirk. They're members of the Ku Klux Klan. They've taken in something much worse, though, than they've realized. So that's really my recap in bringing everything up to the speed from the very beginning. Now, we learned that there are artists who transcend time with their music. This is beautiful to hear, but it also draws evil spirits. Preacher Boy has his talent. This draws Remick and his former cohorts, or his new cohorts, for a night that will change everybody's lives forever. So now that's set up, let's delve into where we're getting here. Before seeing this, I read that passing different things. I won't spoil this film as if you haven't seen it yet, but what I'll say is that I get vibes of a very popular film in the late 90s that I used to watch regularly on the movie channels. We're getting a period drama that turns into a creature feature. That's all I'll say. I've heard people question if this was horror. It definitely is. What it does great, though, is it's setting up these characters, their plight, and then going even darker as they try to survive this night. I love this aspect, hands down. So then, let's start with looking at the different aspects of the story that it builds. First would be religion. This is 1930s South. Slavery's been abolished, but we see that the life isn't that much different. Sammy, Cornbread, and others work in the fields and the plantations. You can hear my son in the background there. This isn't much different than indentured servitude, as they're mostly paid with credits to the local store. I love how this gets revealed when we're at the joint that the twins open. Stack is okay with using it, at least for the opening night. Smoke foresees that this is causing the place to go under. This also includes elements of capitalism. I can see both sides of letting hardworking people cut loose, but it's also taking advantage of their business, and it's not going to last long if this is what they do for too long. I'm also dancing around this issue, but there's some deep-seated racism as an undercurrent. I love that writer-director Coogler tackled this. This is his fifth film of his that I've seen. He does a great job at exploring this subject without going too much into your face like other directors might. I mean, it's not to say that it's all that hidden, though, here either. The twins call Hogwood a Klan member to his face. This couple that Remick finds shelter with, they're also members, and we see that very blatantly. The twins are worried about their opening night being interrupted due to being in a black establishment. They're also playing the blues music. Outside of the Chows and Mary, everybody is black, which is allowed in if you are. Segregation is something that is taking place, so it makes sense as to why Cornbread is advised to prevent Remick's crew from being let in. Let's then shift gears here and talk a little bit more about the horror aspects. I won't reveal what the trio is, but my guess is most everybody who is listening to this probably already knows. There is a popular, like I said, late 90s movie that feels directly influenced by this, and I actually found some trivia that Coogler definitely was. So much this that we have one movie halfway through, and then it shifts gears. I do think this one is less of a crime film for that opening part. We get elements before it goes all in, but this ends up being bloody. I love how music also factors in. That sets this apart, which tends to be my issue when you're doing films in this subgenre, just because it's been used since the beginning of cinema. This is firmly planted in the genre, in my opinion, though. Let's then go over to filmmaking. I heard a buddy say that this was one sequence that needed to be seen in the theater. I have an idea of what it was. when it started. There's an idea here that the preacher or the special musicians have talent where it can transcend time. How it's used when Preacher Boy plays, we see like Native Americans doing tribal dances, a DJ from the future, also a rocker with a guitar from the future, women twerking, there's Asian dancers. Seeing how this was filmed was amazing. The cinematography frame were on point. I was captivated. It was cheesy, but how well it was crafted and the feeling died away as it went on. This also leads into the horrors to come. I'm going to go ahead and break away and say the effects of the creatures were good. I like the blood that we got. It wasn't over the top. There is some CGI that does, and I mean, assuming it was used there for sure. It doesn't ruin this in the slightest, though. I'll also include here the use of music was great. It captures the vibe while also building atmosphere and was used as well as you could. The mid and post-credit scenes add to it as well. So all that's left before some trivia is going to be acting performances. This might be one of the best performances I've ever seen from Jordan. He's a good actor, and I liked everything that he's done. His portrayal of these two characters were on point. They're similar while still being different. Credit to him there for being able to differentiate for both. Canton was solid as well. His voice was amazing when you got to hear him sing. This is a solid adult role to see Steinfeld in. Moscow also rounds out this main crew. I liked O'Connell as our villain. He has such charisma that just fits the role that was needed. Now, the surrounding cast of Lindo, Miller, Lawson, Lee, Yao, Kirk, Dry Manis, and anybody else I haven't named here rounded this out for what was needed. So there's a lot of trivia on this one. I'm not going to do all of it, but I'm going to definitely pick out some of the stuff that I thought was kind of cool. Coogler explained in an interview that Remick was partially inspired by the character Death in Puss in Boots: The Last Witch, noting both his eyes and demeanor. Kind of looking through here. O'Connell signed on despite getting to read the script once. His character would be singing Irish folk music, a dream come true for a fan of the genre. Their two biggest influences here are both from Robert Rodriguez. That's all I'm going to say there. Yao suggested his character Bo Choi was someone from Chinese roots who wears a gold Taoist amulet for good luck. Bo wears a necklace in the film, though it can only kind of partially be seen there. One of the spirits summoned by Sammy is a Peking opera dancer dressed in Sun Wukong, a suggestion by Chow's actor Yao when asked which Asian characters to include. Christopher Nolan and his producing partner / wife Emma Thompson assisted Coogler in shooting with 65mm film. That's cool. That's one of the things I probably think made it kind of pop there. The Moore Smokestack twins are named after Smokestack Lightning by Howlin' Wolf. The music for the film was recorded live on set with the cast members performing alongside other blues musicians. Canton's film debut, secular music-hating preacher Jedediah is played by Saul Williams, a musician and rapper. That's kind of funny there. Composer Ludwig Göransson and his wife Serena rented a studio apartment from a church in New Orleans and worked with supporting cast of O'Donnell, Kirk, Dry Manis, and Lawson, rehearsing their songs multiple times. Director Coogler said he thinks that Jordan's greatest acting challenge yet. It was incredible to see him do it. I think it's his greatest performance. Acting challenge, not performance. I say that I've seen him level up each time. Fruitvale Station was his first time in a movie. That's kind of cool that they worked together since the beginning of his career. The second R-rated film to be shot in IMAX after Nope. Remick uses Joan and Bert as backup singers and musicians. Joan is played by Kirk, who was released several singles and albums, and Bert is played by Dry Manis, one of the singers for a Canadian alternate rock group July Talk. During pre-production, Coogler sent composer Göransson several recordings from the 30s and 40s, particularly Robert Johnson and Tommy Johnson. So I'm not going to do too much more here. I guess the working title for this was Grilled Cheese, which is kind of weird. And O'Connell claimed that he got the point of the script that Remick sings and jigs to Rocky Road to Dublin, that he knew he wanted this role since the song was a childhood favorite of his and he's always wanted to do a jig in a movie. So in conclusion, I'm glad that I finally got to check this one out. I can see why it's getting high praise as it did. We get an excellent period drama where we have gangsters, the economic plight, and seeing these people find their place in the world. There are underlying themes that are relevant without being too in your face. Then the horror elements were used well, not to mention it is just well made. The music, sound design, cinematography, and framing lead the way. Even the CGI, which I don't love, look good. Then we have great acting performances from our leads in the supporting roles. This just jumped into my top 5 for the year and could easily be my favorite. I'll definitely give this one a rewatch before everything ends, as long as it comes to streaming and everything like that. So my rating, though, for Sinners, 9 out of 10. Not going to do a spoiler section just because this one not everybody has seen and is still in theaters and everything like that. So let me go ahead and get you over to one last break before I close out the show. And I have a great thing here that I wanted to go ahead and give you an offer for since it fell into my lap and wanted to go ahead and share it with you. I have been given a promo code here for shimmerwoodbeverages.com. These are CBD-infused seltzers that are award-winning. They have been twice recognized by Forbes as the #1 CBD beverage in the United States and the best lower potency option out there. It blends full-spectrum CBD with local Maine fruits and cocktail bitters for bold flavors, crafted without added sugars, caffeine, or artificial ingredients, which, if you know me, that is something that I prefer because, I get enough of the caffeine and I'm trying to get away from sugars. So it's designed for relaxation without intoxicating effects, perfect straight from the can or a refreshing cocktail or mocktail base, depending on what you're looking for there. This has unique flavors like raz lime, chai cherry, ginger orange, and just hemp. Now, Simmerwood offers a health-conscious alternative to sugary sodas or alcohol, made to revive a calm, clear focus for natural stress relief. Each can contains 5 milligrams of full-spectrum CBD for a balancing, calming effect. So this one here is at, like I said, shimmerwood.com, and my promo code here for you listeners is actually you get 30% off of if you use my code, and this is, like I said, a great deal if you can go ahead and you want to do that, and my code is going to be Cinephile1. So if you want to check out more of the information or check out their site, there will be links in the show notes for you to check that out there.
We're Seismic Cinema. I'm Colin. I've probably not seen it. Paul's watched it in the wrong order.
And I'm James, and I've probably written an essay on it. And that's Seismic Cinema. We believe in the power of escapism.
Oh, thank God for that. That'll do.
And welcome back one last time here, and just to kind of go through my social medias and stuff, if you'd like to send me an email, you can send that at journeywithacinephile@gmail.com. You can send me any sort of feedback, or if you have any questions or anything, go ahead and shoot them there, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Or if you want to send me any screener links or anything like that, anything podcast related, you can send it via that way. If you'd like to read any of the written reviews, I'll direct you to Reviews of the Dead, and that's horrorreview.webnode.com. If you'd like to become friends with me on Facebook, I'm David Michigan Garrett Jr. On Twitter, I'm Buckeye from Mish. Letterboxd, I'm David OSU. On Instagram, I'm David OSU87. On Threads, I'm David OSU87. And then Journey with a Cinephile has its own Instagram at Journey with a Cinephile, all one word. Now, all of these ones I will be sharing like my ratings on whatnot. I know for Letterboxd, all of the reviews are going to be for horror and non-horror alike. Instagram I will be sharing over there is my different like posters and everything for things that I'm reviewing. My personal account, you might see some personal pictures every now and then if I can remember to take them. And then, kind of same thing for Threads. And then Journey with a Cinephile is going to be more of just kind of posting podcast-related different stuff over there. And I'll also direct you to the Nightclub Discord channel, as I have a little section over there where we have some good conversations. I post all of my reviews and any new podcast episodes or some of the things I'm watching when I actually have time to post that. So keep an eye out over there, and I'll have the link for that and everything else in the show notes there. And then I'm also going to direct you, a way that you can actually listen to the show is going to be through the Pod Nation TV. This is a streaming service and everything like that. There will be a link in the blog posts for all of my episodes, so if you'd like to listen to it that way. It's kind of a cool little thing. You can definitely do that through like Roku TV, and there's some other apps for it as well, just as another way for you to consume this podcast if you decide to. There's also a lot of other great shows that are on that network as well. And for my next episode, it's going to be 291. This is going to be my another Voyage to the Fives. I think this is going to be number 10 here. And the two feature reviews I'm going to be doing is I was able to finally check out the movie Drop. This is going to be one that is on VOD. And then I actually kind of figured something out kind of neat here when I was looking at some of the things while I was kind of looking at some ways to do some subtitling. And I figured out a way to check out The Bear's Wedding. I know I brought this up earlier in the year. This is from 1925, so I'm jumping back because I found a way to read the title screens. So I also have a Voyage to the Fives rewatch here of Howling 2, Your Sister's a Werewolf. I picked that up on Blu-ray, I think for like my birthday or something like that. And then I'm going to give a rewatch to Grafted. That's going to be the 2025 film. I don't have any other screeners or anything like that, so what I'm going to go ahead and do is, watch some more horror movies. I'll probably have some documentaries on there. We'll figure out what it'll be for the mini reviews, but I will have, a full line there. So I don't think there's anything else to say here outside of That wraps up this episode of Journey with a Cinephile, a horror movie podcast. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of horror cinema. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and follow along for more deep dives into the macabre. Until next time, keep watching horror, and remember, fear is just a frame away.
It had been a wonderful evening, and what I needed now to give it the perfect ending